Ready? Play.
Hello there. Welcome to WTA Weekly. Yes, this is. I'm back in the chair. I have to be honest. I wish it was in better circumstances. But I'm here, and I'm here with one of my favorite tennis people, Miles David. Miles, how are you on this US Open eve?
I'm doing pretty good. It's glad to be back inside the box with you. I've missed you, and I'm feeling great. I am on the. Thank you. When did that become a thing? Is that like a recent
I
thing?
have no idea.
Serena did that last year at the U.S. Open, and I was like, "It's like a thing now or something." I don't know.
It's not just a tennis thing. That was just anyway. I'm trying to be cool, Miles. Okay.
It worked though. It worked. It gave us this moment. But I'm feeling great. I cannot say or deny if any of what I'm about to give in commentary land is going to be my best work, because I am off the tails of a wonderful evening in New Orleans, watching sports and enjoying mimosas. So I'm feeling great.
Okay, well then, I actually think that puts you in peak condition to talk about tennis, to be honest.
Maybe so.
We'll give it a go. So, before we get into the US Open, there was actually tennis going on this week in Cleveland, the Tennis in the Land tournament. Before I go into like what the results were, did you watch any of that tournament, Miles?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I wouldn't say I have a soft spot for Cleveland, but I don't mind it. I prefer some of the older WTA tournaments that were the week before the US Open, but Cleveland isn't bad. And I know people who have access to that tournament because a lot of people surprisingly live in the Midwest in the US. Surprising to many, even me sometimes, but people live there.
I clearly this is a cultural American thing that I'm just not aware of about the Midwest. Maybe being British, maybe I should be glad to not know.
Yeah, I'd be glad to not know.
Okay. But good to know I shouldn't book any tickets to Ohio.
Not with rush, not with haste. You can wait a little bit.
Okay, good to know. So sorry, Cincinnati Open. I will probably not be visiting. I will save my money for Indian Wells instead. Probably my first choice for an American tournament to visit. Maybe even ahead of the US Open. I'm not sure.
Hey, I've been to both, and it's a tough comparison. It's a tough choice to make. So.
They're very different. They're very different vibes. But the Cleveland tournament was won by Sara Sorribes Tormo, who actually does have a history at this tournament. She reached the semi-finals in 2021.
She did?
Yeah.
Now that I did not know.
That was thanks to the research I did on Wikipedia half an hour before we went live. But yeah, she is the Cleveland champion. She actually came from a set and a break down to win the title against Ekaterina Alexandrova, who I didn't bother watching the final because I think I was doing something else. I think I was doing something else, and it was like the late evening, and I looked at the score and I was like, oh, Alexandrova's winning this. She's 6-3, 4-2 up. She's got this. And then I woke up the next day and it was like, Sara Sorribes Tormo won?
It had the feel of a 3-set match, like when the final was made, because I mean, both of them regularly played 3-setters, so of course together it just had the makings of an up and down match. But it was definitely on, but like background white noise. Like I don't even think I watched championship point. I just know that Sorribes Tormo came back in the match, and she now has 2 WTA titles, both of which are on hard court, which is surprising to me because if you've ever seen her play, you wouldn't think that would be on her resume.
I know what you mean, but then she did beat Barty on a hard court in the Olympics. I mean, I do agree with you. Yeah, I'm surprised that she doesn't have at least one clay title under her belt, but hard kind of works with her style as well. And don't forget, you probably didn't watch that match because I know your feelings on her opponent, but she did have that absolute epic against Kerber at Wimbledon on grass, and actually doesn't do too badly on grass either. I just think, her style in theory works better on clay because you do have to hit through her a lot more, and she's much more resilient on the surface. But give her the right kind of hard court, and she's right up there. I actually think that Sara Sorribes Tormo is an underrated and an underappreciated player. And based off that Kerber epic, also the Haddad Meyer epic from this year, I mean, I know if you talk to Owen Lewis at Popcorn, he's really big on Sara Sorribes Tormo. She might actually be his favorite player on the women's side. So that probably tells you something. But yeah, I think this is a great result for her. I guess I'm mentioning it because I saw some stuff on what the app formerly known as Twitter, which I will continue to refer to it as, that just annoyed me about sort of people's perception of her.
Can I be honest about my perception of her?
Yeah.
Okay. I
That's what you're here for.
True. Okay. I've been one of the people that have underestimated her athleticism, and watching some of her matches this week, she's very athletic. There's really not a corner of the court she can't cover. It's just, for me personally, her style of game is just not high up on the ranks to watch. She's not visually pleasing to me as far as stroke production, and it kind of starts from the very beginning of the point with her serve. Her serve is I'm only a regular casual tennis player, but that would be in the examples of serves to not teach, because it just doesn't look it doesn't look copaesthetic, it doesn't look aesthetic, any other word to describe beauty in tennis. That's just not what the strength of her game is. But she will run you down all day long. She just picked apart a mediocre Sloane Stephens in the semifinals, and she makes tennis a yard burner. Like, she just is going to be out there until you're tired and extend points until you make the wrong choice. So if that is your lane, far be it for me to swerve into it. And anybody watching, if you love SST, love that for you.
As someone who has a soft spot for Daria Kasatkina, I'm not against that kind of style.
Fair enough, but Daria has a little more guile to it.
A little bit more.
Yeah. She's a little bit even more creative, and her game is just all around a little bit more smoother to watch to me. But I see the connection. I see it.
Yeah. I think I have a lot of respect for the athleticism that a player like Sorribes Tormo, being able to run everything down. I remember in 2021 when Raducanu played her at the US Open, and I went into that match thinking, oh, Raducanu's screwed here because she's young. There were some fitness questions around her at the time after she pulled out of Wimbledon. Mm-hmm. I didn't think she was going to last in like extended rallies against Sorribes Tormo, and in the end, it didn't matter because Raducanu didn't allow there to be extended rallies. She just hit through her completely.
She gives you a good ball to hit, which is the counteraction to her being such a good athlete. She has to be a good athlete because she gives the opponent such time to work with the ball that she hits across the net. So,
and actually, when you think about the epics that she's been involved in, it makes sense because who she was against was Kerber and Haddad Meyer, who were both grinders.
Yep.
They just keep getting everything back. They're also similarly athletic, but in very different styles.
Mm-hmm. Would agree.
In terms of Cleveland as a tournament, how relevant do you think it's going to be for the US Open?
I would actually put more stock on. I haven't looked at either of their draws, so maybe we should circle back to this when we get to the US Open preview part of this episode. But I would actually put more stock on Alexandrova going farther in the tournament than Sorribes Tormo. Okay. Alexandrova and Sorribes Tormo are not necessarily Grand Slam contenders, but I think a third or fourth round is well within their reach. I just think Alexandrova, with the pace of the ball in New York and just how she plays, I think she has a better chance than Sorribes Tormo does. So I don't think either of them we're going to be seeing on the final weekend or thereabouts. So
yeah, I would agree with you, but I've just seen who Alexandrova's first round match is against.
Mm-hmm. You're going to tell me now or later?
I'll tell you now.
Okay.
Leylah Fernandez.
I have had a really rough week of putting my foot in my mouth.
I mean, look, like, Alexandrova does have the game that she could.
Oh
blast
yeah,
Fernandez off
actually,
court.
Alexandrova is the favorite in that match. She's seeded. Fernandez is not. I just wish that wasn't the draw because I like Layla, and it's not going to bode well for the story of Layla Fernandez as a competitor if she goes out in the first round of the U.S. Open, the place that we know her from. So that's tough. That's tough.
I mean, we'll talk a bit more about that, how that match is going to go in a bit. But if you look at, I had a quick look at the history of it. I didn't break down like every finalist or anything like that. But if you look at the champions of the two previous tournaments in Cleveland, Annette Kontaveit won the first one in 2021. And at US Open, she went on to lose in the third round to Swiatek, who was actually looking pretty good at that year's US Open.
She was,
maybe actually the Grand Slam that got away from her in many ways. If she'd played better in that first set tiebreak against Bencic, who knows? Maybe she would have won it instead of Raducanu. And in 2022, Samsonova won Cleveland, got to the fourth round, lost to Tomljanovic, somewhat unexpectedly, if I remember rightly, because I think she, if I remember how that match went, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, she looked to be the favorite all through the first set and then lost the first set and collapsed.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, yeah. She pulled a Samsonova. Samsonova does have a tendency to do that.
Yeah, and let's face it, no disrespect to Tomljanovic, who is a pretty good player and can do that to you. Or to most players outside of the top 10 anyway. So yeah, I would say, I would agree with you. Cleveland is, you could see the finalists having a decent run to didn't run through the draw. I've got Sorribes Torre reaching. I originally had Sorribes Torre reaching round 3. I pegged it back to round 2. But yeah, I can still see her reaching round 3. But
the semifinalists of Cleveland were Sloane Stevens losing to Sorribes Torre, and was it Julien losing to Alexandrova?
Let me check.
I think that's right.
Possibly. Yeah, Julien. Yeah.
Julien, she lost to Alexandrova.
Maria lost in the semifinals to Sorribes Torre. Stevens lost in the quarters.
Oh, maybe because of the rain, it got me like all mixed up. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Garcia also lost in the quarters to
Julien. Yeah.
And Fernandez lost in the quarters to Maria.
Mm-hmm.
But then by that point, it's kind of like they're not going to be, those kind of players are not necessarily going to be in top gear to try and get it, because they need to maximize US Open prep, especially if rain gets involved.
Yep.
So I wouldn't read too much into those results necessarily, but they're all pretty solid players. I would call those like
all of the players on the screen could win a round or two at the US Open for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think
all of them, they all have actually.
Yeah. So I think you can't necessarily rule any of them out from making an impact until you might look at their draw anyway.
Yeah.
Before we dig into the US Open draw, I do want to talk briefly about Paula Badosa, who is the high-profile withdrawal, which I think most people are actually disappointed she withdrew, because it means we don't get that blockbuster match with Venus Williams. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Should she have even bothered trying to see if she could play?
I don't know. If I had a tomato in my hand, I'd be contemplating throwing at her. Not with too much force, but like, you hadn't played since Wimbledon. You knew that the likelihood of like an entire stress fracture in her back was likely just not going to go away. Granted, she tried. That's her job as an athlete. But something is, I don't know if annoying is the right word, but it's bothersome when players carry an injury into a large event and wait until the draw has already been made to cancel or to withdraw, knowing that they've already been carrying an injury. But it's kind of like dangling some fruit in front of us and then yanking it back, because Badosa and Venus was a prospect that I would have sat and watched for sure. And actually, I would have given Venus the edge in that match because Venus has played more tennis. Badosa has been injured and hasn't played in the last couple of weeks. So now that matchup is different. Greet Menon takes her place as a qualifier, and that's who's going to play Venus. I'm sure that'll still be a great match, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out from the Venus angle because Greet has just won 3 matches in a row. So
yeah, I mean, no, isn't Greet? Is it Greet qualify? Was she lucky? Greet to qualify?
I'm pretty sure she qualified. I'm pretty sure she qualified outright.
I would agree with you. Actually, I had the same assessment. I thought Venus would be the slight favorite in that match because she had more tennis under her belt. I don't want to go too harsh on Badosa because I remember in 2017 US Open, Andy Murray withdrew at the last minute, like the day of or the day before the first round. He was seeded second when he was still trying to convince himself he could still play. So I think that a lot of tennis players have this sort of delusion that they can get themselves healthy enough to play tennis. I mean, we saw this with we've seen this plenty of times before with not just, I'm pretty sure Venus has done it. Turned up at a tournament, realized that she's not fit. She's even practiced. So I don't want to be. I'm more concerned with the prospect for Badosa's career because he's a back injury.
I would agree.
That's going to take a lot to recover from. I am getting a net Kontaveit vibes from this one.
Yep, I'm getting a net Kontaveit. I'm getting Tatiana Golovin, who was a French player from the 2000s that had a back issue and got as high as top 15 maybe, and had a back issue and had to pull out. It's something you have to keep an eye on, and a lot of players can work past elbows and shoulders and wrists and stuff like that, but a back is literally the core of your game. And I don't know, I would hate to see that. I would hate to look back, a couple years from now and see that like 2020, 2021 Paula Badosa was the peak, but tennis is tough, and I do credit her for doing her job. Like, that's part of doing the job is getting yourself prepared to compete, and getting yourself prepared to compete is seeing if you can. So maybe she did show up to see if she could, and her body just was like, no. So, I mean, fair enough, but it is like I said, it is dangling something in front of us and then grabbing it back.
This isn't the first time, like Badosa, like this back injury is like, it's been a lingering thing, but she's been injured in the last year as well for other things. It's just not looking good. Anastasia quite rightfully also pointed out Bianca Andreescu withdrawing. I think because that was a couple of days ago. And I also didn't think she was going to be playing. I was even more, I like Badosa. I was kind of like, okay, like she's been out long enough. I can see her playing. Like Tomljanovic, I was like, oh, she is playing.
Right. First time all year.
And I was like, but with Andreescu, it was like, given what happened in Canada and then pulling out Cincinnati, I'm very pessimistic about her chances of actually playing. And so sadly proven right, which is a shame because Bianca Andreescu at the US Open, that seems to be the one tournament that she actually plays well at. Because you could rely on her to play fairly well at each year.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of taking my cards off the table with Bianca Andreescu because I feel like she may be in a similar vein of Paula Badosa, except a way more accomplished version, where like they actually squeezed as much as they could out of their career in the peak that they were in it. And unfortunately, injuries just never let them fully thrive afterwards. So it's unfortunate, but at least she got to publicize her book. She got to sign some book. I think it's called Bianca's Got Game. Did I just make that up?
I don't even know she had a book.
It's like a children's book, I believe, and it kind of like chronicles the story.
Players and writing children's books because they're everywhere at the minute.
Money.
Like, Ash Barty's done it as well. Seen something else in the UK. I don't think Emma's written
Osaka. Osaka has a kid's book, I believe, or a kid. It's something inspired by, or she's associated with it. That's a better way to put it.
Emma Raducanu's got something similar in the UK.
Hey. I mean, we want to grow the game, and it starts young. That's so true. if you have a kid that has shown interest in sports, and you're trying to read them bedtime stories or what have you, why not throw them a tennis book? I mean, it puts money in their pockets, and it makes your child smarter.
So yes, if you are an ambitious tennis parent who wants to develop your child much in the same way as Richard Williams did with his kids, then go and.
Oh wait. It's really called BB's Got Game? Wow, I have to give myself more credit because I really thought I made that up. I'm feeling vindicated. Sorry, I really thought that I completely made that up.
I'm proud of you, Miles. I'm proud of you for and your memory. Not bad for a man who's just turned 30.
Wow.
Yeah, hey, you can throw the same shade at me next year.
Okay, I will. I'll remember this.
Oh no, I've made an enemy today. Right, let's actually talk about the US Open.
Let's do it.
So, I think in the past, we've maybe gone through sections of the draw, or like I did it with the French Open. We went through section by section of the draw, but I think for me, there's too many obvious favourites in each quarter of the draw.
Fair enough.
Do you have a quarterfinal lineup that doesn't contain? Well, this is mine. I think every quarterfinal prediction I've had has had at least 6 or 7 of these players in there as well. Swiatek, Goff, Mukova, Rybakina, Vondrousova, Pegula, Jabeur, and Sabalenka.
I would maybe, if I had to pull some names out of that, it would be Mukova and possibly Rybakina. Okay. No, excuse me. I would actually keep Rybakina, but it would be Mukova and Vondrousova that I would kind of pull from their lineup, just because they're very talented Czech players. But week to week, it's very hard to kind of keep a radar of what their game is looking like. So I wouldn't necessarily write them into my quarterfinals. I wouldn't be shocked if either of them went out before the quarterfinals.
Okay. I mean, they are both coming through weaker sections because Mukova would be upsetting Sakari, and Vondrousova would be coming through the section that Garcia is the seed in. Yeah, sorry. The fact you're laughing tells me everything. Like I was saying this to the producer before we went live. That like it's in like Garcia didn't even feature on my long list for the power ranking. Didn't even score any points on my system for it. I actually think she's going to lose round 1 to.
Oh yeah, I'm not a betting man, but I actually would slide a little money to Wang Yifan. Actually, if I was in charge, I would bet on that for sure, because Garcia has just not looked like the same player of 2022, which is unfortunate because it's seemingly all there for her as a player, and she's also somebody that's joining the 30 club, which is crazy. She makes 30 later on this year.
Oh,
so.
I forgot about that. That is crazy. I mean, yeah. I will say this. My prediction for Garcia losing has more to do with the fact that Wong is in really good form.
Fair enough.
Than Garcia. So Wong's obviously gone through qualifying, but she won a 125K event in Stanford.
I'm so excited. That tournament was great because it was at the same courts that used to hold the Bank of the West Classic, the WTA Premier Tournament in Stanford that was there for years and years. And it was a WTA 125K / Challenger and an ATP Challenger, and they prioritized equal prize money for both the men and women, and I really enjoyed that.
There you go. Support Stanford, people.
Yes.
So we've got a little bit off track already. So
Sorry.
My point is, okay, so if you're not going to have Mukova and Vondrousova, which is fair enough, they're not dead set. It's like Mukova could be injured, Vondrousova. I don't know. I think probably a bit harsh on Vondrousova because she's backing up her Wimbledon results pretty strongly. Like she's getting to where she should be for her ranking, in the Masters 1000s. But like from those sections, I mean, who do you have going through and getting there instead? I mean,
I didn't like make a firm. I haven't done like my firm fantasy draw yet, but just looking at both of their sections, their names. I mean, in the Mukova section, there's Taylor Townsend, Sloane Stephens, Beatrice Haddad-Maia, Sorribes Tormo, who just won Cleveland, and Maria Sakkari is there. She's actually the highest seed in that section, but she's made a semifinal here before. There's some names that could not be Mukova by the end of the first week.
Yeah. I mean, none of those names I would be surprised to see in a WTA quarterfinal. Like I'd say if I was going to pick like my backup options from that section, it would be Sakkari or Stephens. I don't know. I just have a good feeling about Sloane Stephens at the minute. I know she was a bit lackluster in Cleveland, but was that down to she wanted to be fresh for the US Open?
You never can really expect that from her, but her first round opponent, Beatrice Haddad-Maia, you can expect that she's going to be ready. Unless she's dealing with like some kind of physical injury, she's always ready for an extended
That
fight.
is the first round match I am most excited for. Like that's, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get to watch it, but if I can watch it, I will. Not necessarily because I'm busy, but because the TV package I have, I don't have court choice. I'm at the mercy of what they put on.
Is this through Sky Sports?
Sky, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, so the thing is that I think Sky will have a multi-court option in the UK, but only if you buy the main Sky package, which is £40 per month. Which I don't know what that would be in dollars.
It just make it so hard for us to watch tennis. I'm assuming it's something you have to invest in, and they just always want us to invest money into tennis. Never mind. I'll be off on a tangent.
Yeah, we've ranted about tennis broadcasting multiple times before.
We have.
This is also the company that's got the ATP and WTA tours next year. So there is a cheaper version that I have, which basically only gives you live TV on the main channels, and they will have a dedicated tennis channel. So I will just watch what's on that. But it does mean I'm kind of at the mercy of what they decide to broadcast. So I'm hoping it's Stevens Haddad-Maia. I mean, it's at the same time as Swiatek versus Peterson, so I'm not going to complain too much if I have to watch that.
If it's not, I'll try my best to find you like a backyard YouTube stream so we can at least watch it.
I'll keep an eye on it anyway. I mean, but that if that's the one I have a choice, if I had a choice, that would be the one I would be tuning in for.
It'll actually probably be on one of the 3 show courts.
Oh, it's on Louis Armstrong.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Second on Louis Armstrong tomorrow.
Oh, it's gonna be so hot. I already know.
Okay, it's after Victoria Azarenka against Fiona Ferro.
Yeah.
I would so that's kind of the rant over. But if it's on Louis Armstrong, good chance of it. But I think if it's on the same time as Iga, they might show Iga.
New York has a fairly popular Brazilian culture. Yeah. And of course, Stevens is an American. So that actually might be a pretty interesting crowd. I'll definitely have an eye on that.
Yes. And let's face it, we want a rowdy crowd in New York. That's what it's there for.
We love that. Anastasia said she's going to be there and she'll be live tweeting.
Cool.
So,
I hope you enjoy it, Anastasia. Should be a great time. Stevens Haddad-Maia. I think that one could go either way. I've predicted Stevens, but obviously we know how stubborn Haddad-Maia can be.
I'm going Haddad-Maia just because if things get tough, I trust her more than I trust Sloane.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair enough. I think with Sloane, depends on who she's playing, right? Okay. So
that second section at the first section of the bottom half of the women's draw, we didn't mention.
No, I was going to move back to that, so we're on the same page.
Okay. Cool.
So I mean, for me, Garcia is the seed, but obviously you burst out laughing at the idea that she might make the quarterfinal. I can't see anyone else in that section that could really cause problems for Mukova. Maybe Fernandez.
Yes, but all of those names can be tricky on their day. I'm looking at Trevisan. She's perpetually, I was going to say annoying.
Clay courter.
Nice. Yes, but she's feisty. Let's just say that. Potapova has not had a bad season. She's kind of cooled off in the last couple of months though, but she opens up against Clara Towson, that's actually a pretty good outside court match. Yeah,
I think Towson lost the first set against Fernandez 6-love and then retired in Cleveland. That concerns me.
And then Lesia Sarenko's there, but she withdraws from matches frequently. And Putinseva's in there. Peyton Stearns is a unseeded American who's put together, I believe this is her debut full-length season on the WTA Tour, and she's put together something impressive. She's ranked 55 right now, career high. She's had 5 ITF titles and she's only 21. So I mean, the US Open is known for a American that just, is either bubbling right above the scene or under it, kind of making a splash and going further than they probably thought they would have because of the crowd. So I think there's a bunch of opportunity for a name that we see maybe possibly coming or did not see coming at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, maybe that's a section that's a bit more open. You're going to see like a crazy name, maybe even like Wong Yafon.
You didn't mention Katie Bolter.
Katie Bolter, I was about to say maybe. I mean, I feel like that's optimistic even for a Brit.
Oh, I was trying to give you a bone, Nick. Sorry.
I'm not one of those Brits. You're not on with James.
Fair enough.
James is the one who will like try and find any kind of opportunity to promote the Brits, and I'm like,
well, I just found an opportunity to promote the American flag, so I felt, hey.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of like Damien with polls.
Yeah, fair enough. But I'll take being a pole right now because,
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I'm still gonna go with Vondrousova. I think she's beating the players that she should be beating right now. I don't know how a potential rematch with Pegula would go. I think Pegula might win that one, especially with the US crowd behind her.
Would that be a quarterfinal?
Quarterfinal, yeah. Different prospect grass.
Yes, I just know that Pegula has a quarterfinal problem. Like she could probably tattoo it to her arm at this point because it's right there. Yeah, I mean, that would be a potential quarterfinal, right? If it's Vondrousova or Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if she wants to get into a semifinal of Vondrousova and Garcia, or whomever comes out of that Vondrousova and Garcia section, is a great opportunity. But I have to see her win the match point. I have not seen her I've just not seen her put her best foot forward perpetually in those Grand Slam quarterfinals, even in opportunities where she's been the favorite.
To be fair, Pegula kind of doesn't have it easy to get to a quarterfinal because she's got some tough names in there. I mean, I've got her potentially like dealing with Madison Keys or Ludmila Samsonova in the 4th round. Mm-hmm. That's if she gets through Alina Svitolina in round 3.
Or Camilla Giorgi in round 1.
Camilla Giorgi in round 1. If Giorgi comes out and blasts the ball as only Camilla Giorgi can do on her Ostapenko like occasionally unbeatable day, yeah, that could be an upset. That's a match I've marked down as I'd quite like to watch that one.
It's very much so different pace, but similar. I'm trying to see what makes the Giorgi and Pegula matchup interesting. I guess similar height is what I could lean on, or like, yeah, because they're similar in some ways in my mind, but Giorgi doesn't have like a level or a gear below to kind of make sure she gets the ball in, whereas Pegula has a better idea of that. But if Giorgi is consistent and just like hitting everything and is on fire, especially if she's able to maintain it over 2 sets, Pegula maybe can hang, maybe she can't. So I think Pegula needs to come out, and I think she knows she needs to come out very focused in that matchup. I think she knows it.
Yeah. I mean, look, on paper, it's a big matchup because it's two 1,000 champions head to head, which when you put it like that, is an exciting prospect. But yeah, I agree. I think I'm excited for that matchup based on which Camilla Giorgi shows up.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pegula doesn't have it easy. Whereas I still think she's consistent enough that she's probably going to make it. But there are some players who are in that section that on their day could out-hit her.
I agree. If Madison Keys is looking good to get to that 4th round and meet Pegula, Keys has the weapons to bother Pegula as well, as does Samsonova, who could be a 4th round opponent for Pegula. And I personally think, I mean, not to discredit Pegula from winning in Montreal at all, but I think if things had played out as perfectly or better than they did with the rain in Canada, Samsonova could have walked away the champion of that event. If Samsonova and Pegula played their best in a final, I think there's a day where Samsonova wins that. So,
yeah, maybe. I don't know, because like Pegula was still playing pretty well. I mean, granted, I think she benefited a little bit from Swiatek losing concentration in their match, but she was genuinely irritating Iga. I didn't watch the Coco Gauff match but she seemed to edge that one.
She shouldn't have won that one either, actually.
Okay, right. So Pegula got
not
through.
Not just saying that as a Coco fan, but Coco was. It was actually a very scratchy, low level match, and that tends to happen when you're playing somebody that you have a very warm relationship with. Obviously, they're doubles partners, but yeah, she didn't look amazing in that match. But Swiatek was a step up.
Okay, so maybe we should have got that Goff Swiatek match a little bit earlier. Okay, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I think that makes the US Open clash potentially interesting.
I agree.
I mean, I'm fairly confident that Swiatek's going to make the quarters. I don't see anyone in her section that's going to stop her, really. Ostapenko maybe, but I actually think Ostapenko's going to lose in round 1 to Paolini.
I was just about to say, yes, there's definitely a world where she loses to Paolini.
It's one of my 2 big upset alerts. Like, I can confidently predict an upset. I'll tell you the other one later.
The scoreline would probably look crazy too, like 6-7, 1-6, or 6-7, 6-1, 6-love for Paolini. It really could be insane.
But Paolini's doing really, really well at the minute.
She has been doing very well. She hasn't lifted a trophy at WTA level, but I think she made the final of Palermo right after Wimbledon, and she made a quarter or so in DC or Montreal, or one of the two. So yeah, I've been seeing her name in the winners column a lot often these days.
Yeah, I definitely think, and she's got more form than Ostapenko. So yeah, I'm backing Paolini to pull off the upset. I think she's going to get to round 4 and then lose to Swiatek.
I would love that.
Which would be great. I think that would be the first time she'd make a second week of a major, which would be brilliant for her. Coco, likewise, I can only see a couple of names I think could get to the quarters instead of Coco, and they're both American.
I know which one you're talking about. Are you referring to Danielle Collins and Jennifer Brady?
I am indeed.
Excuse me, Jennifer.
Jennifer.
That's something else she can get tattooed. If she doesn't have a tattoo, I would get like Jenny and then Jennifer like on each shoulder, just to make sure people know and give them options. But yes, I've been, or Jen. Yes, I always forget that one. Yes, Jen, Jennifer, Jenny Brady. Yes, she should market that in some kind of way. I'm not sure how, but she could market that.
Jamari's saying that Paolini has won a WTA final title.
Oh yeah, I meant like recently, like because that was 2021, but it was on hard court. That was a great call, Jamari was. So she's comfortable for sure.
Okay, but yeah, going back to that, yeah,
I think Jen Brady. I think Brady has. I can't like count on her efficiently to make a second week run here, but her draw, if it works out in her favor, especially if Kvitova goes out before their potential third round meeting, I don't see why she can't make a fourth round here.
I mean, I'm probably being harsh on Kvitova by not including her in the mix for that quarterfinal. On paper, yeah, but she's had her 2 good tournaments this year, and she tends to have 2 good tournaments a year, and her hard court warm-ups weren't amazing.
Yeah, they weren't stellar. I mean, at this point, Kvitova's my girl, but I'm not really expecting her. I'd actually be surprised if she has a great U.S. Open. Buchka of Spain just picked up her best win of her career. Who did she beat? Buchka. She beat somebody.
She did.
She beat Belinda Bencic. Yeah. So, hey, that's who Kvitova plays first round. Maybe Buchka is feeling herself. Who knows? And Wozniacki lingers there. That could be okay. For the sake of wanting to see a throwback 2010 Kvitova and Wozniacki match, I both hope that they win their first round matches.
I think they probably will. I think if Kvitova does at least mid-level Kvitovaing, she will beat Buchka. And Wozniacki, I think, has the level to take down. I can't remember which qualifier it is she's playing.
Prozovora, I've never seen her or heard her play.
But given she beat Birrell in round 1 in Canada on her first match back, I would imagine Wozniacki should win. So yeah, I'm well up for a throwback Kvitova versus Wozniacki match. I would love that. I think
they played in 2010 Wimbledon, and Kvitova absolutely just spanked her. It was like 6-love, 6-2 or something like that.
Always underperformed at Wimbledon though.
But that was one of my favorite Kvitova matches, and it wasn't even Kvitova wasn't even a Grand Slam champion then. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That was Kvitova's kind of breakout event, wasn't it? Because you got to the semis in 2010 Wimbledon. if I remember right. Yeah,
That's
lost to
exactly what
Serena.
happened. She did.
Yeah, there you go. My memory's not failing me. Huzzah! Okay, so we're talking about that section, like hopes for that, but the names we've thrown out there. I mean, Danielle Collins, I think, is looking quite dangerous right now as well.
Yes.
How, as a Coco Gauff fan, would you
Mhm.
feel about her playing any of the people we just mentioned? We'll throw in Kvitova into the mix with Brady and Collins just to give her the respect she deserves.
Let's say she plays Kvitova. I think she can outmaneuver Kvitova. If she plays Wozniacki, I think she can out hit Wozniacki at this point. A Jennifer Brady versus Coco Gauff match would be interesting, and part of me wants to see that because I didn't get it in the French Open of 2021. That's actually the match that Brady had to retire from, and that kind of started the down spiral of her time away from tennis. She retired in that Coco Gauff match. I think NBC was excited to broadcast it, and then Jennifer Jenny or Jen pulled the plug, and we didn't really see her until kind of right now. So I kind of want to see that. Collins could obviously also push Coco, and then also kind of mirror Andreeva if she's feeling herself. But the last couple of performances I've seen from Andreeva haven't been stellar. But again, she's only 16.
I think we're going to get an Andreeva Gauff round 2, but I will say that I'm not. Given what happened at the French Open, I'm not massively confident Andreeva's going to be a massive challenge for Gauff. But I hope that she does well.
I do want to see it though, because I mean, who knows what that potential rivalry could look like years and years from now? Because they're both teenagers.
I don't think she's going to beat Gauff, but do you think Siegmund in round 1 is going to irritate her?
Irritate, yes, because she irritates me. But
yeah, irritate but not beat. I definitely don't think she's going to beat her.
I don't think she's going to beat Coco. If she does, I may turn my television off for the duration of the entire US Open.
I think Siegmund's again one of those underrated players.
Yes, I would agree with that. She's just irritating. That's the best I can describe her and her game. I would not be.
She's a friend of the show, right?
Is she? Sorry, Sigmund, you're great. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't want to be fake, but yeah, I would. Her game style is just. Actually, I think she revels in that. I think that's why certain people play tennis, because you can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. You really can, and that works for some people, like Putin Seva, Shea Sue. Like all of those players do things on a tennis court that would drive me, a proponent of big babe tennis, absolutely insane.
But it's interesting when the two players you just mentioned, like Putin Seva is generally regarded as like one of the villains of the WTA, and Shea is one of the darlings.
Fair enough, but I would both want to like wring their necks across the court. Like, what? Why are none of my shots effective?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so yeah, so I think actually in many ways, I think Gauff, when you think about it, actually has a pretty tough draw. She's still the favorite in every match, but it's going to be tough.
Out of the people we've talked about that are favorite to go deep, I think she has a tricky one for sure.
Okay, let's finish off the top half quarters because we've got one left. The Rybakina section. Every time I talk about the Rybakina section with people, it's like, but she's injured. And she does. Okay. I want your honest opinion. Round 1, Rybakina versus Kostyuk. Is that a tough draw?
Very.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily calling the upset just because Kostyuk's form isn't through the roof, but Kostyuk is a very capable player. And I think she would like the pace that Rybakina gives her. And Rybakina doesn't come in with terrible form. She did reach the semis in Montreal, but she's not necessarily as glittering as she was in the Australia-Indian portion of the season. So, yeah, it could get tricky. If Kostyuk is able to extend that to maybe like a deep third set, you never know.
I think it is going to be tricky. But I also think, I think a lot of people are. Kathy thinks it's going to be an upset. I don't. I think it's going to be straight set to Rybakina. Okay. I think we're over egging the Rybakina injury thing.
Because somebody wanted to like I mentioned this on my podcast, which is going to be out tonight, by the way. Small plug. I did a US Open review with
do a big one if you want.
I did a podcast previewing the US Open with two of my friends that are native New Yorkers, and we have a great conversation. They mentioned they were trying to tell me that I was seeing things by Rybakina wearing that shoulder tape way back in Indian Wells. I feel like she was. I've seen pictures of her with that shoulder kinesio tape that kind of looks like a tattoo or something. She's been wearing that for quite a while, so it didn't really trigger me to think anything more than just precaution or just stability in her shoulder when she was wearing it at Montreal. But I think it may be a little bit more going on than she's leading on about the shoulder, but she's able to play through it because of how much pace she can provide in her shots and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've just looked at it. Yeah, Rybakina was wearing that tape in Indian Wells on both shoulders. So
from Indian Wells to now, that's a long time to be like, having a little discomfort / something you have to work through. So
yeah, exactly. I think her problems in Cincinnati were due to the late night finish against Kasatkina in Montreal. Yeah. I reckon that, to be honest, Rybakina should win that match. I think maybe Kostyuk might get the early break, and then Rybakina's going to steamroller the rest of the time. To be honest, I think in the same way Sabalenka steamrolled Kostyuk at Roland Garros. I think Kostyuk's
that match had tight moments though. That match had some tight. It was straight sets, but it had tight moments that if went the other way, it could have been a different match. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, maybe. I it's not that I don't rate Kostyuk, because I think she's a very talented player, and I think she's overdue a really good deep run at a major. But I think she has a matchup problem against pretty much every top player, and that's where I'm at. So I would put Rybakina in on a relative. If she gets through Kostyuk, she's got a relatively safe route to the quarterfinals. The only players I think I've got in her section that would potentially bother her would be Azarenka or Bencic. And if they were to play, I think she wins. She's the heavy favorite in both those matches.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, but there also is a part of me, just because I've been watching her do it for so long, that kind of rates Azarenka showing up at the US Open. She likes those courts. I think she likes the atmosphere. She's not the same exact player that was making back-to-back finals and testing Serena, obviously, but she's still good. She's still good on her day. And if she picks up some momentum, she also has a draw that she can work her way pretty comfortably into the third round. And if she faces Bencic, which if seeds hold, they will, I kind of give Azarenka the edge on that. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would too, given her history with the tournament, and like she's been doing all right in slams, but I don't think, I mean, judging by what happened in Australia, that Rybakina matchup does not favor her at all. So I'd have Rybakina making it to the quarters, and then we'll go to the bottom section. I think there's one player who has a tougher draw than Coco Gauff in terms of the top 8, and that's Ons Jabeur. She's got Osorio round 1, Noskova round 2. And then she could potentially be running into Bushkova in round 3, who's in very good form, and Zhang Qinwen in round 4.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're cooking in the kitchen. But I think, how do I put this? I think Ons Jabeur, for me, all of those matches and all of those names you just listed are matches that Ons Jabeur should be winning at this point in her career. It's just the fact that we have such a imagery of her falling short of doing that and like playing well in the big crucial moments that it feels like almost everybody has an opportunity against her to cause an upset. And to their credit, they do, because she gives them an opportunity. But if she's playing well, she should beat Osorio. She should be able to kind of irritate Noskova, because she has so many layers to her game. If she's playing well, a healthy and playing well, Ons Jabeur should beat Bushkova too. So like in theory, in my mind, the draw has been kind to her, but she has to also take advantage of it. So we'll see.
Okay, here's where I'm coming from with this. It's less about ons and more about those opponents. Like Noshka's had a
Really? Wow.
pretty decent hard courts.
She got to the final of Prague.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of gone off the boil a bit recently. I'm surprised Fernandez demolished her in the way that she did in Cleveland.
Right. Yeah.
That's the one concern I have about that. But Bushkova in round 3, Bushkova had a very good Canada and Cincinnati. Couple of last 16s. I think she might have got to quarters in one of them. Like I could see Bushkova having a really, really good day and pulling off the upset. And then Jean Chin-Wen has also had a good couple of months as well. So that's where that's coming from. It's less about ons and more about those guys are in form. Osorio less so.
Yeah.
But Osorio is a tough.
She's feisty. Yeah.
Like
she'll make it hard.
Yeah.
She'll give you rhythm too, though. So I don't know.
Yeah, I that one's less of an upset alert for me. Although Autistic Tennis Fan on Twitter has that as one of her like matches she really wants to watch, and was definitely very excited about. Even again, partly because Osorio will make it tough. But yeah, so that's where I'm kind of coming from. Is I think a bit like with the Goff section, I think Jabeur will be the favorite in every single match. But I can also see a scenario where she gets upset by pretty much any of those players I've just mentioned. I know there's some chat going on with Kathy and Ghosty about Jean Chin-Wen and how she may be overhyped. Maybe that's the case, but she's still pretty good.
Yeah. And there's also 2 wild cards, American wild cards, that I want to shout out in this section.
Oh, yeah?
Ashlyn Kruger. Yeah, wildcard Ashlyn Kruger. She's a 19-year-old from Missouri. She had a win over Azarenka in the grass court season. She takes on Bushkova first round. I think even if she doesn't win that match, I think that will be good experience playing somebody who's been like a seasoned top 30 player. And then also 18-year-old Robin Montgomery, the left-hander from Washington, D.C. She got a wild card into the main draw and plays a qualifier, Eva Lies of Germany. And the winner of that takes on the winner of Bronzetti and Krejcikova. And Krejcikova, speaking of what Ghosty is saying about off the boil, and what you mentioned about someone else being off the boil, Krejcikova was right along with them. So there's an opportunity for some players.
Again, like Krejcikova didn't feature on my long list for like even the long list to get into the top 10 for my power ranking. So which I was surprised by. Yeah, she's just not had a good couple of months on the hard courts.
Whoever she said that thing to about being the 4th best player in the world, it did not land well with them. I don't know what tennis god was listening to her that day, but they were like, okay, great. We're going to show you. Sure. Whatever you say, Barbara.
I mean, that 4th best player definitely seems to alternate. At the minute, it might be Goff. But let's see how long that lasts. I thought with Goff, with her age, that should be last a while.
With this draw, Krejcikova could very well shut us up and be like in the quarters. And we're like, oh, there goes Krejcikova again.
Yeah.
So who knows?
We love Barbie to prove us wrong.
If you're listening, Barbie, if you're listening, we're holding out hope for you.
And then Sabalenka, I think we're fairly confident she's going to make the quarters. She matches up pretty well against pretty much anyone who could challenge her, like Kasatkina, Kenin, and Vekic are the only ones that maybe could pull something off, but they'd have to require them to have a very good day or Sabalenka to have an off day.
I would agree. There's something that gives me pause. As much as I was like really big-headed about Sabalenka this season, and she gave a lot of us, proper authority to do so because she was playing amazing. And she hasn't played badly at all this season. It's just kind of similar to Ons Jabeur in like the last 3 or 4 months. In the really, really tight moments, she's been about as tight as I've ever seen her. And they've been in really crucial semifinal moments. So I pick her to go deep, but I'm still having question marks on what kind of semifinal demons she has in her mind about reaching Grand Slam glory, even though she's already done it. It's just
Could you imagine what kind of sort of 2 players battling their demons if you had a Pegula Sabalenka Grand Slam semi-final?
That would remind me of Dominic Thiem and Alexander Zverev. Like, oh, you take it. You take it. No, I'll take it. No, you take it. Yeah.
Maybe. Oh gosh, this is exactly the scenario where Ons Jabeur or Marketa Vondrousova swoops to another Grand Slam final.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, how did that happen? I still can't like formulate my mind to announce that Marketa Vondrousova is a Wimbledon champion. That is wild to me.
I've gotten used to it, especially how she's performed since, and sort of the potential we knew she had. I think a lot of people were sleeping on Vondrousova for way too long before that.
Yeah, I think, is someone mentioning Noma? Is she in this draw?
Yes, no, she lost round one in qualifying. They were asking about it.
Okay. Oh, speaking of qualifiers and the wild cards or thereabouts, Venus Williams is in this section. She plays a qualifier, Greet Menin, in the first round, and the winner of that takes on Donna Vekic. If Venus wins that first round match and Vekic wins her first round match, and Venus can bottle up some of the tennis she's been playing, I think it could be competitive. Not calling her to win it, because Vekic has been in even better form, but Venus has shown about as high a level as she's shown since, to me, watching some of her matches. It's definitely been spotty, and I expect it to be spotty because she's 43 years old and doesn't cover the court the way the rest of the field does. But as far as hitting the ball and going for her serve and, playing dominating tennis, she's been doing that. She got a win over Kudermetova, took a set off of Jin Kin Win, and her opponents, Greet Menin, I know who she is, but I'm not that familiar with her game. I know she can probably move the ball.
Metronomic.
She can move the ball around a little bit and give Venus some pace, but if Venus steps up and like dominates the points, she should be able to put that away, I guess. But age and time on court is such a big factor. And then I'm interested in what the Donna Vekic matchup would look like, because Donna Vekic is also somebody that's not a great mover on court. So it'll essentially be a battle of who hits the best, kind of like Venus's match against Camilla Giorgi and Birmingham earlier this year, where like it was just short, quick points, and I don't mind that, and I think that is advantageous for Venus. So it gives her the better opportunity than if she was playing somebody like an Ons Jabeur or a Kasatkina, who can like mix and groove and like really run her around the court. So
yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think Venus has a good chance of beating Menin. I thought Vekic would probably beat her, but now you've said that, I'm like, oh yeah, no, on paper you might have a point there. I'd still back Vekic.
Same,
but yeah, Venus could get. Yeah, if Venus was in round 3, I wouldn't fancy her chances getting further than round 3, though.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm literally in the corner of my studio. I can see old VHS tapes that probably have Venus Williams' name on them from like playing some tournament. So I have to kind of like massage her name into the category like of winning some way. I just have to do it.
Yeah, why not? I mean, potential round 3 opponents for Venus Williams, Kasatkina. That would be like she would be running around all over the place.
Yep. Kasatkina plays Parks first round.
Yes, which is a match that some people on my feed are very excited for.
I can see that, because it's definitely a contrast of styles. Alicia Parks, big serve, really deep, flat ground strokes, but can misfire. And Kasatkina is just going to be massaging and mixing the ball and the pace and moving around. So we'll see. If Parks has a really good serving day, that could be tough for Kasatkina.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who it was I was having that conversation with. It might have been Elena, but they were very much of the they liked the idea of the power versus hitting from the backboard, just absorbing the pace, match up, that sort of contrast.
We didn't mention Pliskova. She's also in this section.
Pliskova is in the Sabalenka section. Yes, to get to round 3, potential round 3 for Sabalenka. Let's be honest, Sabalenka does seem to have an edge in that matchup.
I think a lot of people have edges in matchups against Pliskova at the moment, who made the quarterfinals here last year. She's the 25th seed. If she loses early,
made the final here in 2016.
Yeah, but I'm a little worried about her ranking, because if she loses early, her ranking could take a little bit of a hit, not defending quarterfinal points. And I don't know where else she's really garnering points from. Like I can't think of any other place.
It might be dropping down to where it should be then, but
you said that, not me.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, Pliskova's not been super inspiring recently.
between you and me, I've never been inspired, but you know.
I do remember when she got to world number 1 and the collective response was, how did that happen?
I still ask how that happened.
2017 was a absolute madness year. It was like
Serena gave a gift to quite a few people.
And it ended up being Halep of all people in the end.
I mean, I'm fine with Halep. I'm okay with Halep.
Okay. Halep from 2017 was a surprise. Halep from 2018 less so.
Yes, she made getting to world number 1. Yeah, she made getting to world number 1. She confirmed it, even though she got there without winning a Grand Slam. She confirmed it. Pliskova never did that.
No,
sorry.
Despite her best, I mean, like she was a set away
multiple times. Yeah, she was up against Kerber, and she was on the comeback trail against Barty. So yeah.
So yeah, Jamari saying that Pliskova did lose to Sabalenka at the US Open last year, so it's not looking good for Pliskova. So yeah, so we have an idea of who our quarterfinals are going to be. I mean, like now we've broken it down. There's a few options in there, like potentials for deep runs. I'm still sticking to my prediction. It's going to be Swiatek versus Goff, Mukova versus Rybakina, Vondrousova versus Pegula, and Jabeur versus Sabalenka. But I could see scenarios where that doesn't happen, particularly in the Jabeur and Goff sections, and the Mukova section. But with but then, of course, that gets down to who the semis and the final are going to be. I know we've done some predictions before. Like I was talking to John. John is of the opinion that he's backing Sabalenka to win the US Open. My prediction will not surprise you whatsoever.
There's
no point me saying it out loud.
I wasn't worried.
A heart over head prediction. I'm with
you. Her Swiatek's path to another title is fairly clear, I think.
It's the Goff. The Goff is the match that bothers me the most.
Does it really?
One, yeah. Okay. No, Sabalenka in that final bothers me more, but Goff is the one I'm second most bothered by.
If I was, and I'm not like an Iga Swiatek hater. I actually am very middle of the road with Swiatek. I see her being around for a very long time and, doing great things on the tour. But although I'd be alert at the threat that Coco Gauff presents, I'm not necessarily shaking in my boots, because it's not like Coco Gauff created a whole different game style and just blew Swiatek off of the court. Swiatek had moments in that match where she could have been the winner, and the head-to-head still is what it is. Swiatek should walk onto that court knowing that she has the tools to beat Coco. Do I want a great matchup, and do I want that rivalry to kind of get better, especially on paper? Yes, but I'm not all the way convinced that one win in Cincinnati switches the tide in the head-to-head just yet. If she beats her at the US Open, I'll change my mind.
The same as you. I don't think Cincinnati switches the tie. I'm also up for the idea of Swiatek and Goff having a proper rivalry. I would definitely be up for that, and I'm okay with Coco getting a few. Because I like Coco.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I think the thing is that the only player I think who actually has a run of wins against Swiatek is Rybakina.
2 in a row or 3 in a row?
Like typically Swiatek doesn't lose 2 in a row to other players. I actually think if she plays Rybakina in the semis, Swiatek's going to get her this time. I'm my head and my heart is telling me it's Swiatek. Miles, where are you at? Are you going to go with one of the 2 big names, or are you going to throw a third in the mix? Because let's face it, there's about 4 or 5 players who we would put in the very likely to win the US Open.
Can I be wild? And like John's suggestion of Sabalenka is fair, and I think Sabalenka winning both of the hard court majors this year would be great. I think that's great for women's tennis. But I think, and this is a little more heart over head, but I I don't want to go on to Jabeur. I really do. Like,
Okay.
imagine like the absolute pain of losing that Wimbledon final the way she did, and losing the Wimbledon final before that, and losing the U.S. Open last year. Draw that she has. I may be eating my words in about 48 hours. I know, but I think there's opportunity there. I really do. I think,
Are you trying to
especially,
make friends with Hanya?
I love Hanya. I don't even have to. I don't have to try. We
Yeah,
just we
true.
see,
Like,
we
no
see
one
each
has to try
other.
to make friends with you. Let's be honest. Or Hanya.
Yes, we see each other. But
Mhm.
her, if she gets through her section, her quarterfinal would be Sabalenka, and then her semifinalist could be Pegula or Vondrousova. She'd have work to do, but she did all of the work getting up to that Wimbledon final. If she could just find that level, and I don't know, maybe if she faces Swiatek in the final or something, and she realizes that she's the complete underdog, she'll be able to be freer. And Anastasia saying she has a lot of points to defend here. I'm hoping she gets back to the final. I really would like to see that. If it's not Wimbledon that creates, sorry, I'm just seeing John's. Oh man.
For those of the podcast, John is asking what was Miles smoking in New Orleans.
The good stuff, only the good stuff in New Orleans. Dang, I lost my train of thought. It must have been really good what I was smoking. About Ons, yes. I'd love to. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There we go. If Wimbledon is not the place that has the biggest impact for the winners, it's definitely the U.S. Open. If she is going to be the representative of the Arab and African world the way she is, and have an impact for years to come in how that shows up in tennis, winning the U.S. Open does that, even if she only does it once. So, and I want to see that. I want to see that breakthrough moment again. This is mostly just heart over head. So I'm going with Ons Jabeur, I think.
Okay. Let me say this. I would not be shocked if Ons Jabeur won it. And I am more than up for that story. I would love that story of seeing her coming back from the pain of Wimbledon and winning the very next major. I just think on a hard court, that doesn't seem that likely. I would not be shocked. I would be surprised. That being said, I did put Jabeur 8th in my power ranking in a category with Mukova and Vondrousova. I wouldn't be that surprised if they won it.
I'd actually be more surprised if Vondrousova won the U.S. Open than if Jabeur won it.
Did you? Okay. Do you know what my power ranking is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like, do I know it verbatim?
Yeah.
No. But of course I've seen your power rankings.
Okay. 8 Jabeur, 7 Vondrousova, 6 Mukova, 5 Pegula, 4 Goff, 3 Rybakina, 2 Sabalenka, 1 Swiatek. Made before the draw. Still pretty happy with it after the draw.
I would be happy with that too.
But yeah, so I think I might swap Ons, and I could swap Ons and Marchetti. Those two are interchangeable, but I feel like Marchetti's got slightly better form.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop with Vondrousova. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it way too many times where the player wins a Grand Slam and then a year later we're like, well, where did she go? Well, I'm not encouraging that to happen. I'm a fan of the WTA, Nick. We both are. We know what happens sometimes.
We know what happens, yeah. But Vondrousova will forever be a major champion, and
that is true. That's very true.
I think she will. I think she'll be a solid presence, deep in draws for years to come. But yeah, so we're going to go with that. Okay, last couple of questions, I think, as we're on the hour and 10-minute mark. What are the first round matches that you are most excited for? We've probably mentioned some of them already, but let's mention them again.
Ostapenko Paolini.
Yeah,
I think that could be an upset. I do think that I'm interested in what Danielle Collins and Linda Fruhvirtova would look like. Fruhvirtova has not been in great form, but I just want to I kind of want to gauge where Danielle Collins is too, because she's been MIA for most of the season, and then she looked great for the past like 2 weeks or so. So I just want to see if that was like her actually hitting her stride, or just like a kind of a.
That match is going to go one of two ways. That's either going to be Danielle Collins out hits Kvitova completely,
Mm-hmm.
or it's going to be a scrappy one.
Yep. That's why I kind of mini circled it. Rybakina and Kostyuk for sure. Nothing in that section. Oh, another niche one. Taylor Townsend is playing in the main draw, and she plays Varvara Gercheva, now of French citizenship. I think that could be interesting.
Okay.
And Taylor Townsend just came off the backs of winning the doubles title in Cincinnati.
I agree. That's definitely going to be an interesting one. Obviously, I'm going to be rooting for Taylor in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I will root for Taylor in every match.
Yeah, she's easy to root for. Fair enough. And then right below that is Sloane Stephens and Beatrice Adai, which we talked about earlier.
Yes. That's the big one. Alexandra Fernandez?
Yes. Definitely in the popcorn bag for sure. Alexandra Fernandez. That may get a grandstand court. I would imagine. Nothing, maybe court 17, which is like the fourth biggest court, I believe, that has like a arena stadium kind of vibe. I would definitely stop by that one for sure. And Garcia
Wong?
Yeah, I was gonna say Garcia Wong only because of the upset kind of brewing, just to see if it actually happens.
Yeah. I think...
there's a big throwback match we didn't mention at all.
Oh yeah.
That may not happen because one of them had to retire in their final round of qualifying and got in as a lucky loser. But Yanina Wickmeyer and Vera Zvonareva play in the first round. Wickmeyer was a semifinalist in 2009, and Zvonareva was the runner-up in 2010. That is, if you would have told me either one of them would be playing tennis in 2023, I would have giggled like I normally do. So that is crazy that they're meeting first round of a Grand Slam in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy to see some people from the past meeting early on in the Slam. I mean, I am surprised Zvonareva is still playing.
She qualified. She won 3 matches, so you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. You never know. I always see her name and I'm like, oh yeah, like
yeah,
what's she doing for the last decade?
Do you do the same thing with Kaia Kanepi?
Kaia Kanepi and Barbora Strycova are another sort of oldie clash.
Yep,
they're about the same age, aren't they? Like late 30s, 38.
I would imagine somewhere about there.
Yeah, I think Kanepi's 38. I think Strycova's the same age.
We didn't mention Marina Zanevska of Belgium. She's retiring. She's retiring, and her first match is against Sabalenka. So if you're a Belgian tennis fan, get out and support Zanevska because that might be her last professional match.
I'm going to throw an upset alert out there that you might look at me and go, what?
Hit me.
I think we need to put Belinda Bencic on upset alert. I think she's going to lose to Rakimova in round 1.
Fair enough. Rakimova is a player that like I see her name and I'm like, should I be paying attention to her? Should I not?
I've never watched her play. I don't know how she plays, but she got to that Stanford final
and lost to Yafan Wang. Yeah. Fair enough.
And
Belinda Bencic does like U.S. Open though. I think the court just suit her game perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, Bencic has on years and off years, so I don't know whether this is an on year and off year for her.
Did she get to a big final? She won Abu Dhabi.
Okay. I think she got to. She won 2 500 titles at the beginning.
Oh, and she got to the final of. She won Abu Dhabi in Adelaide.
Yes, and then second Adelaide, and then she lost.
Then she got to the final of Charleston,
and I think she's had some injury problems since.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know. I know that's. It's a risky one. I know that Bencic in the US Open, part of me did go, wait, but it's Bencic at the US Open. Part of me is going, no, this is an upset. So
if that happens, that Rybakina section opens up even more. It already kind of is. So yeah, anything could happen. That's what I love about the slams in general. Like I love being able to just see, especially on the WTA side, a player that I kind of saw bubbling or had no idea was about to go on the run of their lives, kind of show up in that moment and get sometimes the shining light of their career, So think of like Melanie Oudin and other players who've just, like we know them from iconic runs to the 4th round or quarterfinals of the US Open. Tomljanovic, that might be the glittering run of her career, And she's in that Rybakina section.
Although, don't forget, Tomljanovic did also make 2 Wimbledon quarterfinals, so it's not.
Yes, fair enough.
Okay, but she didn't beat Serena in the other 2.
Fair.
So there's swings and roundabouts there. I think there's one other question. I'm going to just scroll back up in the chat from Jamari that actually he asked a very pertinent question for a prediction on this one. Who leaves the US Open with the number 1 ranking, Swiatek or Sabalenka? So do you know how the permutations are working for this one?
No, but can you dial it down for me?
Okay. If Sabalenka gets the same round or further than Swiatek, she will take the world number 1. If Swiatek gets 1 round further than Sabalenka, then Swiatek will retain number 1. It's 11 points between them in the live ranking.
Wow.
So, but it's 11 points in favor of Sabalenka. So it's super tight. Obviously, if they both make the US Open final, winner gets number 1.
Hey, I'm all for it. What if we get, this is not ATP Weekly, sorry, but what if we get a matchup of 1 and 2 on both sides of the US Open? Wouldn't that be something? That would be Alcaraz, Djokovic, and Sabalenka, Swiatek.
Incredible weekend.
That'd be something.
Of tennis. Obviously, because of my prediction that Swiatek's going to win the title, obviously Swiatek's keeping number 1. But if in your world where Jabeur beats Sabalenka,
she still leaves the US Open as number 1, right? Because she would have gone 1 round farther.
Depends. It depends if you think Swiatek loses to Goff in the quarters or not, or before the quarters.
Oh wait, Ons Jabeur and Sabalenka can't be a final, right?
No, Jabeur and Sabalenka play in the quarters.
Look at Ons Jabeur putting a wrench in my plans. I think I'm still going to go Sabalenka, but if Sabalenka wins it, I want to see Sabalenka win it and get to world number 1, not Swiatek losing to. Yeah,
because in our world where Ons Jabeur wins the US Open, for Sabalenka to take the number 1 from Swiatek would also have to lose to Goff in the quarters.
Yes,
or lose before the quarters.
Far be it from me from that happening. Yeah,
I mean, the Coco Goff fans like, yeah, sure, I'm up for that. Oh gosh, can you imagine if it's Coco Goff versus Ons Jabeur in the final?
I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that. That'd be very fun. Can you imagine the crowd? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. But then you'd obviously you'd be like, oh, I predicted Jabeur, but I want Coco to win.
Yes, that's exactly how it would be.
Which I think actually happened to Hanya in Canada, because I think she got Tommy Paul versus Yannick Sinner, and she was like, if Sinner won, she won the bracket, but obviously she's a Tommy Paul girl. Ghost asking if there's any chance if Sabalenka runs into Mukova only in the final. So Mukova would have to beat Rybakina, Swiatek or Goff, and then play Sabalenka in the final. That's a tough run for Mukova to get that one.
I don't want to see that. Sorry, Mukova fans. I'm not a fan of that matchup. I think it produces good tennis, but I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know why. It's a weird one.
I mean, I'd be more.
I like both of them separately. Separately, I'm cool with it, but together,
Yeah, Ghost is relieved. Yeah, there's more chance of Mukova running into Swiatek than for Sabalenka. So I don't think that's too much of a problem. So okay, so at the minute we're going with opposite ends on who's going to get number 1 ranking at the end of this. That's going to be the story throughout the tournament. As well as
unless
Rakhimova
goes on the run of her life.
Guys, we got another Raducanu. Well, actually, no, that would fit the Raducanu thing, because Raducanu got the runner-up in a Challenger or 125K 2 weeks before the US Open.
In Chicago, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The exact same Challenger. Yeah, so hey.
Well, Chicago Challenger happened this week. Oh,
Rakhimova was in the Stanford.
Yeah.
Stanford. So, I mean, hey.
I need to check. I actually don't know what happened in Chicago.
Oh, Victoria Tomova won over Claire Liu.
Yeah, I think because it's the week before the US Open, I'm not massively holding too much stock in that one. But yeah, that would be it. Yeah. So if Ghost is saying Fiona Crawley is the next Raducanu, I have never watched Fiona Crawley play. The first time I've ever seen her name in a draw was at this US Open, and she's 21 as well. Okay, yeah, she's currently number 1 ranked in the NCAA Division 1 women's singles, so she's a college player.
What college did she go to? Because that might change my mind.
Oh, okay. North Carolina?
There's a couple
Yeah,
of
North Carolina
options.
Tar Heels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm not calling her to win the US Open, but I like that school. Michael
I
Jordan went there.
need to
He
follow
played there.
colleges better than I do. I've got no idea.
It's all a terrible constructive system in the US anyway, so you're not missing much.
I mean, we do have a kind of a university sports thing in the UK, but it's only for amateurs or people who like maybe were pro at one point as a kid and then decided not to be, but wanted to still do it for fun.
Me. Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I know a couple of people. I actually tried out for the tennis club at my university, and I played against a guy who tried to get into junior Wimbledon and was sidelined for years with an injury and was only starting to play again. I was very glad to get a few points against him. It was only a few points, but
it matters. It matters. That's something to build on.
Yeah. So, but there you go. So and I know there's like I know someone who is currently at university who was in who plays soccer, but was pro soccer in Hong Kong beforehand. But it's all amateur level in the UK. It's not like no one's playing sports at university in the UK trying to go pro.
Like as amateur as Margaret Court's opponents when she won her Australian Opens?
Probably about that level, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, okay. Australian Opens before 1968. She did win a few after.
Yeah, I'll give her that.
Margaret Court, that record, I will say that record is flaky, but I won't say that. I would say when she was actually dealing with pros, she held up pretty well, but was overinflated. That score is overinflated.
Oh, never mind. This is an ATP thing, but if Djokovic wins the US Open, doesn't he match that record?
He does.
Interesting.
So yeah, but that's the ATP. We're looking at this poll here. I think this is who's winning the US Open. It looks like the people are with me, which is good to know. It very rarely happens. But then this probably means that we're horribly, horribly wrong because tennis fans are horrendously bad at actually predicting what happens.
We never get it right. We never get it right.
No, very, very rarely.
Didn't I win a fantasy draw just like last week or something?
You won. Yeah, it was
Cincinnati.
It was either Montreal or Cincinnati. I think it was Montreal.
I think it was Montreal. That's so random because I don't even think I picked Pegula to win. Maybe I did. Who knows?
I think it was one of those draws where
everything fell apart.
Yeah, you didn't no one got that draw right. I think it literally came down to who won out of Rebecca and Samsonova in the semi-finals. It was just a mess for everyone.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
So yeah, we're getting a few new names in the draw as well because I've obviously put it out on Twitter if anyone wants to join in. Yeah, we've definitely got some interesting names in the mix. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. I'm feeling fairly good about the WTA. ATP, no. But I'm only here for the WTA, so we're all good.
I'm excited about this US Open. I think it's going to be one. It's so cliche, but I think it's going to be one to remember.
I agree. The US Open usually is. Last couple have been pretty good, I would say.
If we get a continuation of the "where did this come from" storyline of the US Open with Raducanu or Andreescu or even Sloane Stevens in 2017, you could argue
Swiatek last year to a
to a certain degree, but like you mentioned before, to North American fans, it was like, oh, there she is. So yeah. We'll see what happens. Yeah. I mean, that may be the case for somebody like Sabalenka or Rybakina. Winning the US Open definitely, I mean, from my US perspective, it definitely propels you to being an athlete talked about in people's circles, whether you know tennis or you don't. So
yeah, I'd say in many ways although I'm an eager fan, and I want her to do well. In many ways, actually, more interesting results would be if Rybakina or Coco won it.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna. Do I want to say this? I can't imagine Rybakina winning the U.S. Open. I just only because I can't imagine the match point. Have you ever seen a U.S. Open winner just and be like completely cool about the situation? I can't remember one, male or female.
You'd probably have to dig back pretty far. Do you know what? Actually, I remember watching. I remember watching some of Steffi Graf's match points in her career. And she was pretty chill very early on in her career.
Yeah, but she was beating everybody up, so it kind of felt like practice for her probably sometimes. Except she did celebrate when she beat Celis a couple U.S. Opens.
Yeah,
which
as her career progressed, she celebrated more and more and more. I mean, which she did definitely celebrate that Roland Garros win.
Yes. I'm having a hard time picturing it, like what it would look like on the final when the last ball drops. Rybakina wins the U.S. Open. What does she do? It's not going to make or break her because she's going to win it outright. But like,
how did she feel about Indian Wells? I feel like she fist pumped Indian Wells.
It was this is her wristband, and she just. I mean, maybe that's her signature. I don't know.
I mean, look, let's face it. Medvedev got away with not celebrating,
but he had a range. He has a pretty. It's never like over the top, but maybe to get to the final, he shows you ranges of emotion to where it matters for him, and you clearly know that there's no doubting that he's invested. I'm not saying that Rybakina isn't invested, but she creates doubt about it because of how little she lets you in or celebrates even the biggest points. This picture of Medvedev. Yeah. See, Rybakina's not doing that. Like, even though that was low key and chill, it was something to give us to talk about. I can't talk about that.
Do you know what? It's dawned on me. I know we're straying to ATP, which is a sign we should probably wrap this up. Yes. But the Medvedev, imagine, which is very likely that's going to be Medvedev's only Grand Slam. And that's what he did to win it.
Iconic. See? Iconic.
Yeah, he's going to have to explain that to his kids. It was cool at the time, okay? Everyone was doing it. Have you... let's move on. All right, well, Miles, it's been fantastic, and I'm super excited. I'm super excited for this US Open and seeing how all these great matches play out. And so you've got your latest Tuned Into Tennis podcast coming out tonight.
I'm about to set it up to drop tonight, actually.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so everyone go and subscribe to Tuned Into Tennis on all your podcast apps and check that out. Are you planning on doing much else to cover the US Open?
Yeah, I'll be doing daily podcasts at the end of the night session, or sometimes if the night session is way too long, in between the next session following the next day session. So I'll be doing daily wrap-ups. I don't know why I didn't start with saying that. Daily wrap-ups. That just makes everything smoother.
Okay. Stay tuned to Talking Tennis for our coverage. We'll probably be throwing some we'll be definitely throwing some things your way in terms of live streams covering it. So we'll have to see. So just stay tuned. We will be bringing you as much as we possibly can from this US Open, and I think we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about. So until then, take care and keep talking tennis.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.